Good Morning Liberty.
Well, what is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston. I'm by myself today. Charlie's busy, can't be here today. And it's Dumb Bleep of the Week, though. It's a pretty easy episode for us to do by ourselves. And by ourselves, I mean myself and the Fed Haters Club, which you can join by going to joingml.com, joingml.com, and join the Fed Haters Club. They threw in, I think there's 9 total today. There's, a few in the last one of the day, so there might actually be 12. I think like 4 of them came from the group. Went with some of the ones that I picked because I didn't have a lot of time to put this together today, and I didn't want to have to think about it and research too much. Sorry about that. So make sure you go to joingml.com, leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It is Dumb Bleep of the Week. That is the day of the week where we finally get to make fun of all of the dumb things that have been going on over the last week. And then the live group, the Fed Haters Club, they vote on which one is the dumbest. And that one moves on to Dumb Bleep of the Year, which we will do coming up, not too far away, coming up in December. We're going to do something a little weird here, which is start with one it's not number one, but I wanted to make sure that we had time, that we took as much time as we needed to play this clip. And there's this thing called the Al Smith dinner. It's a Catholic charity dinner thing, and people get there and they make jokes and make fun of each other and make fun of themselves, and it's pretty nice, actually. It's always nice to see people kind of let their guard down and kind of take the mask off and be a real person, and not so much what you see on the campaign trail all the time. And Kamala Harris decided not to go. She's the first Democratic candidate, and she's the first candidate in decades to decide not to go to this thing during the presidential election. So it's kind of weird. I don't know exactly why she didn't go. Listen, I don't care. I don't really know anything about this dinner, but apparently people always go to it. I think it really shows you that she has to keep the mask on. She can't switch out of the fake campaign mode. And also, if she goes there and she tries to be funny and essentially do a stand-up routine in front of a bunch of people, where the guy you're running against is actually pretty funny and is going to destroy you. I think that's probably why she decided not to go. She thought that it would really just make her look really bad. But she decided to make herself look really bad anyway by remoting in with this skit to play during the event. And it brings in, I can't remember the girl's name, Mary Catherine Gallagher, is that her last name? From SNL. She's in a bunch of other movies, with the SNL people. And do this skit from Superstar, which is not relevant whatsoever and wasn't funny in the first place. It was funny like on SNL, 20 years ago, something like that. And it's so weird to me. This is not Dumb Bleep number 1. I just want to make sure that we have time to talk about it. It's very, very weird to me because she's doing fine with the ladies. Like, this is a female-focused presidential election. She's doing terrible with men. And she's underperforming with black men also, which has been a topic of conversation lately. And still to do this skit, which is just more like ladies, I'm just going to play it. It's just, I'm sorry. We probably won't make it through the whole thing, but let's just try. Let's see how far we can go.
Your Eminence and distinguished guests, the Al Smith dinner provides a rare opportunity to set aside partisanship.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, what's going on? Who was that?
Oh, sorry, Mary Catherine Gallagher. Mary Catherine Gallagher. It's so nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you, Mary Catherine. Right now I'm trying to record my speech for tonight's dinner.
Oh, yeah, I know. I just want to say that I'm Catholic, and tonight is one of the biggest dinners next to the Last Supper.
It is a very important dinner, and it's an important tradition that I'm so proud to be a part of.
Sometimes when I get nervous, I stick my fingers under my arms and I simmer them like that. But that's gross.
So tell me something. I'm giving a speech. Do you have some thoughts about what I might say tonight?
My feelings about what you should say tonight would be best expressed in a monologue from one of my favorite made-for-TV series.
Okay, let's hear it.
Don't you see, man? We need a woman to represent us. A woman brings more heart, more compassion. And think how smart she must be to become a top contender in a field dominated by men. It's time for a woman, bro. And with this woman, we can fly.
What series was that from?
Oh, that's from House of Dragons, now streaming on HBO Max.
Is there anything that you think that maybe I shouldn't bring up tonight?
Well, don't lie. Thou shalt not bear false witness to thy neighbor.
Indeed, especially thy neighbor's election results.
Just so you know, there will be a fact checker there tonight.
Oh, that's great. Who?
Jesus. And maybe don't say anything negative about Catholics.
I would never do that, no matter where I was. That would be like criticizing Detroit in Detroit.
Does it bother you that that Trump guy insults you all the time? Because it really bothers my friends and me.
Oh, Mary Catherine, it's very important to always remember you should never let anyone tell you who you are. You tell them who you are.
Haters gonna hate, hate, hate. Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off. Good for you, Mary Catherine.
Oh, yeah, okay. And also remember one more thing. Don't worry if you make a mistake, because Catholic people are very forgiving. Yeah, and also one last thing I want to tell you. Don't forget to say, superstar!
Thank you, Mary Catherine.
Thank you, Kamala.
That's enough. I don't want to do any more. I don't think we have to see any more. This is so cringy and awful and weird, terrible. And what Trump did last night, I'll just tell you, it was amazing. I'm sure you've seen the clips going around online. So good. I don't know what this is. It's not funny. It plays to a very particular audience who would have had to have seen the Superstar movie or the skits on SNL. Yeah, just not. It's not it at all. Let's compare that to some of what Trump did last night, and I'll play you that top 5 video that's been going around all over the place from Colin Rugg, I guess, Colin Rugg. It was really good. And actually, I heard a lot of other really good jokes that didn't make it in this top 5. This actually wouldn't have been my top 5. But this is a good example. This is the difference here. And this is probably why she didn't go to the dinner.
I used to think the Democrats were crazy for saying that men have periods. But then I met Tim Walz. Well, I'd better wrap up because Mayor Adams told me earlier that I needed to make this one very quick, especially the city has reserved this room for a large group of illegal aliens coming in from Texas. There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. A major issue in this race is child care, and Kamala has put forward a concept of a plan. A lot of people don't like it. The only piece of advice I would have for her in the event that she wins would be not to let her husband, Doug, anywhere near the nannies. Just keep him away. That's a nasty one. Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
It's really good. I'm not claiming that he wrote those jokes or anything. A lot of comedians don't write their own jokes anyway. I'm sure that was all, that's all written for him. He's a funny guy, but I don't know if he has that kind of comedic skill to write a bunch of really good jokes like that. Chuck Schumer's sitting right next to him. Chuck Schumer's right next to the podium, and he's like patting Chuck on the back. It was really good. And for some reason, Kamala skipped it, and I think she skipped it because it would have been very different and not funny whatsoever. There's one thing about things that are funny, like really good comedy. There's a reason that like left-wing comedians just can't be as funny, and it's because there has to be a little bit of truth behind comedy, in my opinion, for it to be really funny. And they don't have a whole lot of that. There's not much. That wasn't Dumb Bleep number one. I just wanted to make sure we covered that as the first thing that we covered today. The actual first Dumb Bleep number one is something that we just talked about day before yesterday. Sorry, we're getting the serious stuff that's not funny right now. We'll talk about some more funny stuff here in a bit. Let me breeze by Dumb Bleep number one. It's the stealth edit by the FBI with the violent crime stats. We all went through a period of time where we were crazy for thinking that crime had actually gone up, but according to the FBI, the crime had gone down by 2.1%. Instead, we found out that they had quietly revised those numbers, even finding an extra 1,700 murders somewhere, and that crime had actually gone up by 4.5%. But I believe Trump, I just saw in that Bloomberg interview that we actually talked about yesterday, was fact-checked on the crime stats again just yesterday, where the guy asking him the questions was like, yeah, but the crime's actually gone down during this time. So he didn't get the full information out there. Pretty crazy. And in fact, one thing that people wouldn't like you to know is that although recent attention is focused on the decline in murder rates, even with the revised numbers, the 16.2% drop from 2020 to 2023 still leaves murder rates 9.6% higher than a pre-COVID levels. It's pretty crazy stuff. But of course, we did not get a big fanfare. They didn't have a press conference. They just tried to go in and add into the numbers, and people actually had to go in and do the math and find out that the numbers had actually gone up, not down. And people are still going to fact check on this. They're still going to say that it went down, and people are still just not going to know. Okay. But right now, we should definitely trust the 2023 numbers. We know that. Dumb Bleep number two, get back to Trump here for a minute. There was this thing that happened this week where Trump was doing a town hall in Pennsylvania, and there was kind of this awkward thing that happened. And the final half hour of the event, was them playing music and Trump awkwardly dancing on stage. And I saw the reports of this because my feed is basically just left-wing people, because those are the people I interact with, so I can bring it to the show to talk about things. So that's like my entire news feed. So Kamala HQ says Trump appears lost, confused, and frozen on stage as multiple songs play for 30 plus minutes and the crowd pours out of the venue early. Tim Walz, he was given a speech the next day, said if this was your grandfather, you'd take the keys away, but Trump's running for president of the United States. What happens if he shuts down like he did last night in the Situation Room? Let's see. MSNBC, Donald Trump's town hall in Pennsylvania took an odd turn after two rally goers had medical issues halting the program. Okay, so we start to get a little bit of the information added in here. Trump decided to stop the town hall questions and told the staff to just play music from his personal playlist. He proceeded to stay on stage listening and dancing for 39 minutes. I mean, it was weird. It's not particularly a great dancer or anything. He's kind of doing his Trump moves and stuff like that. That's fine. But it goes on. More and more people online. I mean, you're talking massive posts here. I'll tell you how many when you add them all together. Sources close to the Trump campaign reveal a state of panic post-Pennsylvania town hall. Insiders are scrambling with whispers of Trump's mental capacity in question. Campaign insiders, once stalwart, now whisper worries if he can last the next 21 days. That sounds very true. That thing Trump did last night is not explainable, and it is not small. It shows that he's increasingly detached from reality. Everyone knows if Biden or Harris did that, it would be media mayhem. He's not okay, and you can't ignore it anymore. This person says, America, please, I'm begging you. We cannot do this again. We can't endure this man's psychosis. He is irredeemably unwell, and that's him on stage. There we go. Once again, Aaron Rupar talking about the same situation. Tristan Snell saying that he abruptly stopped the town hall. Why isn't mainstream media calling on him to drop out of the race? The Washington Post says Trump sways and bops to music for 39 minutes in bizarre town hall episode. Let's see. I don't recognize what media outlet this is from. Trump breaks down on stage. Let's see. At a campaign event last night, Trump got bored and weirdness ensued. Okay, so that's a lot of the media reports and people online. And I'll tell you the main reason I really care about this is because there was an obvious reason that this situation happened. There was a medical event that took several minutes where the doctors had to go tend to someone in the crowd. Apparently it was very hot in there. And then they got that person fixed up and they went on with the town hall. And then another medical event happened with another person. And the doctors had to go take care of that person. And it chewed up like 20 minutes of the thing. And people started singing during the event. And then people were shouting random campaign slogans and things like Joe and the Ho gotta go, stuff like that. And Trump decided to turn some music on while the doctors were helping this person. Now, you got someone who's having a medical emergency and there are doctors tending to them. What do you turn on? What do you play at that point? I mean, I don't know if throwing on like your favorite patriotic country music at that time is great. He decided to play some opera songs, like Ave Maria got played several times. Trump is a big fan of opera. If you don't know that, he's a big fan of opera. So they play Ave Maria while medical personnel are attending to one of the people that are at the rally or that are at the town hall. And basically so much time got chewed up that at the end of it, he was like, well, let's just play some music and sit here and hang out. And that's what they did for the last half hour. It was an easily explainable event that happened, although it's not normal for someone to stay on stage for half an hour doing a weird dance there at the end. But in no way, shape, or form did anyone ever think that he had frozen or that he was unwell or that he decided he couldn't answer questions anymore because his brain shut off or something like that. That was all made up. And the reason I wanted to talk about it was because the post I just read to you got a combined 50 million views just on X. 50 million views just on X. And they were all lying. But, you know, Trump is the one that spreads misinformation online, and the people on the right are the one that spread misinformation, and they're talking about hurricanes and FEMA's bad response and stuff like that. It's all very hypocritical, and it's crazy to see the post blow up that much. It took up like an entire night of my X surfing that I do at night before I go to bed, just people talking about this incident, and it was fake. Like there was clearly a reason that it happened. And they just ignored that reason. Luckily, some community notes are what pointed me in the proper direction for what actually happened. I saw this over last weekend, JD Vance talking to this journalist, and this one came from the live group. Thanks for sending that in. And she basically does well, if you deport people, then who's going to build our houses thing? Like, you know, these are the only people that do this work. How are we going to have people building homes and stuff like that? I'm going to show you JD Vance's response. And then I actually did go and dig and get the numbers on this. They sort of do this thing where, you know, all the immigrants, they're just doing these manual labor jobs. How are we going to have any of these? How are we going to have stuff if we don't have people from other countries building our things? And there are, like Clint Russell points out, there's 5 million American men that work in construction. In fact, you might think that it's mostly immigrants or mostly people who are Hispanic. Then you have to look at native born or foreign born. It's still mostly native born white men who do construction. And so I want to listen to a little bit of that real quick.
The reason that there is a housing crisis is that not enough houses have been built.
And that we have 25 million people who shouldn't be here.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I
think it's both.
I know you do. I don't think that many people who look into this agree with you, but about a third of the construction workforce in this country is Hispanic. Of those, a large portion are undocumented. So how do you propose to build all the housing necessary that we need in this country by removing all the people who are working in construction?
Well, I think it's a fair question because we know that back in the 1960s when we had very low levels of illegal immigration, Americans didn't buy houses, didn't build houses. But of course they did. And I'm being sarcastic, of course, in service of a point, Lulu, the assumption that because a large number of home builders now are using undocumented labor, that's the only way to build homes, I think, again,
the country is much bigger.
Fundamental.
The need is much bigger. I mean, I'm not arguing in favor of illegal immigration. I'm asking how you would deal with the knock-on effect of your proposal to remove millions of people who work in a critical part of the economy.
Well, I think that what you would do is you would take, let's say, for example, the 7 million prime age men who have dropped out of the labor force, and you have a smaller number of women, but still millions of women prime age who have dropped out of the labor force. You absolutely could re-engage folks into the American labor market. This is, I think,
to work in construction.
Of course, you could.
I mean, the unemployment rate is 4.1%. Most people
unemployment rate, Lulu, this is important.
But most people who don't work can't work in the regular economy. They're in the military, they're parents, they're sick, they're old. They might not want to work in construction.
The unemployment rate does not count labor force participation dropouts. And again, this is one of the really deranged things that I think illegal immigration does to our society, is it gets us in a mindset of saying we can only build houses with illegal immigrants when we have 7 million, just men, not even women, just men who have completely dropped out of the labor force. People say, well, Americans won't do those jobs. Americans won't do those jobs for below the table wages. They won't do those jobs for non-living wages. But people will do those jobs. They will just do those jobs at certain wages. And think about this from the perspective of an American company, okay?
So I think you did a good job answering this question. I really want to take the opportunity, because I thought it was interesting. I hadn't looked into it before, to look at some of the actual stats on this. So these stats were actually pretty easy to find. I mean, like the first link I clicked on from the Bureau of Labor showed me all of these statistics. So let's see. Let me see. Construction would be 60% non-Hispanic white, okay, and about 30% Hispanic. And then you got like 5% black, 2% Asian, something like that. First off, just some random information for you. Let's all learn this. Let's all learn this together right now. Now, the distribution of people that are Hispanic doing this work has gone up from 20% to 30%, and it's gone down from 71% down to 60% for people who are white, but still predominantly people who are white working in these jobs. Now, if you do break it down to the people who are actually doing the construction itself, the actual construction itself, you would see that is closer to being more Hispanic people and not white people that are doing the actual construction. So that's a little bit different. That's a little different. You're talking about the people who go and do the work. And listen, I've worked in this industry for a long time. I spent a long time doing these kind of jobs. And this is just anecdotal evidence. But yeah, like everyone I see doing this work is Hispanic. I just got a new roof put on my house on Tuesday, and there was a crew of 9 people that came out, and they were all Hispanic. That doesn't mean that all the crews are Hispanic or whatever. But yeah, anecdotal evidence. I could tell you that's potentially a thing. But I think he points out that we used to have houses that were built, and also don't like people writing off the idea that if there's 20 million people here illegally that shouldn't be here. Now, I want them to be able to come here easily. But if there's that many people, and let's say you need half that many living spaces for them to live in, or even a third as many, I mean, that's millions of homes that would be available. It's millions of people bidding for homes that wouldn't otherwise be bidding for the homes. And the Fed themselves have actually brought this up before in some of their reports. I brought in all the information on this, like total construction, non-Hispanic, white, around 60%. Construction laborers is about 50-50 white and Hispanic. And you can go back and look at these screenshots if you would like to. The percentage of people who are Hispanic doing the work that are foreign born is like 65%. to 35% native born. But about 25% of the entire construction industry are foreign born versus 75% are native born. All these stats are available. You can check them out. I'll put a link in the show notes for you. That's dumb bleep number 3. Let's go to dumb bleep number 4. Some people might not agree with this and whatever, but there's a meme. This one came from the group as well. Thanks for that, whoever put that in. The meme says it's not white versus black, straight versus gay, rich versus poor, man versus woman. It's state versus you. And if you don't believe that, then they're beating you. I totally agree with this meme. That's a really good meme. Very accurate, very true. The caption on it is, that's why Trump is the only option. Now, if you look at this specific election cycle, maybe you don't like Chase Oliver, and so you're not going to be able to vote for him. But I don't want to sit here and pretend that a Republican getting in office or Trump getting in office is going to change the dynamic of the state versus you. And this is a libertarian podcast. Basically, any Republican or Democrat that gets in these days is still going to be state versus you. Libertarianism is an option, and I think a lot of people like Elon Musk put a bullseye on this. That's why Trump is the only option. You know, maybe he'll get in there and he'll be different this time. Maybe he'll pick the right people to run all of his, all the cabinet positions and all that. Maybe he'll do something about the budget or the deficit or whatever. Although I haven't heard anyone talk about spending less money. And as long as they keep spending more money, that means they're going to keep taking more money from you, which is like the way that the state really gets you. Regardless of who is in there, they're going to take the product of your labor, the fruits of your labor, and they're going to spend it on things that you don't want to spend it on yourself. So I'm not going to pretend like all of a sudden this dynamic is going to change and that Trump is the only person who's going to make it where it's no longer the state versus you. I don't think that's the situation that we're living in. Elon Musk is getting really close. He's getting really close. Eventually, I think he'll get there. Maybe libertarianism is the right option. Maybe Republicans and Democrats are always increasing the power of the state. Maybe that's happening. Maybe they always increase the federal budget and then the deficits and then the debt, which comes from you, no matter what they do. If they borrow it, they print it, or they tax it, it comes from you. All right. Sometimes it's okay to admit that we don't have any good options, which is what I've admitted this year. I don't see any really good options. I don't see any good outcome of this election. I want Kamala Harris to lose more than I want Trump to lose. I can tell you that, which means I would prefer to see Trump win, but I'm not happy with a Trump win. I don't see a lot of good things happening after Trump wins. It might actually set us back some because it's going to make the left go absolutely insane. So I'm not going to put my blinders on and pretend like this is going to fix things. There's a chance that it could make things worse, actually. But I really don't want to see the left win. And I really want to watch them freak out when they lose. And right now, that emotional heartstring that's getting pulled right now, where I want to see them freak out over a loss, makes it to where I would prefer to see Trump win over Kamala. But no, I'm not voting for Trump. I'm just saying who I would rather see win the election. You don't have to vote. And that's what I've realized really this year. You don't have to. And that can be a vote too. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's something that scares you? I'm deathly afraid of spiders, but also maybe things like rejection or failure, stuff like that. Halloween lets us have fun with what scares us, but what about those fears that don't involve zombies and ghosts? Well, therapy can be a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them, because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place. I've gone to therapy in the past. It helped me a lot becoming the person who I am today. Charlie has used BetterHelp in the past, used it for a long time, and I know that we definitely both benefited So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/GML today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/GML. Another video for Dumb Bleep number 5. Let's look at this one. This is a guy destroying this privileged socialist. This one came from the group as well. Thank you for sending that in. Let me find this. This guy's maybe a little bit mean. I don't know. I mean, it's not exactly how I would handle it if I were talking to this person. I sort of felt bad for her and expected her to start crying. But let's listen to this exchange. And these really are some of the people that you're dealing with online sometimes. These socialists that you're dealing with online that really have no care in the world and just want to make themselves feel better by supporting something like socialism. But let's listen to this exchange. Yes, there's volume on this. Here we go.
Yeah,
we live
reality
in.
sucks. Capitalism is bad. I don't like it.
Yeah, really easy for someone to say that grew up in a really nice house in one of the best school districts in Texas.
I know, but it's
who has the rent paid for, that is able to go to Europe and on a whim with their sister, who's able to do girl math, who's able to be fun employed. Yeah, it's easy to say that the system's bad when you're doing that because you've never had to work for it. You never got to actually see what happens when you put in the work and get benefits and actually have a little bit of responsibility and actually build something or do anything. You've grew up in privilege beyond privilege beyond privilege beyond privilege. It's only the people who speak like you that grew up in a world where you've never had to do a single thing in your life. So I don't want to hear about that. What a joke.
I'm sorry. I just wish everybody had but yeah, like you were saying, that
I
doesn't
wish
exist.
a lot of things. Wishing doesn't get people places. You try to create the best systems possible. This doesn't matter. Oh my.
If it's the best system possible, then why are there people
I'm not
who
saying
are
this is
top
the.
percentages who are
Shut the f up. I'm not saying this is the best system possible. I'm saying we don't do the I wish this is how it all is.
Yeah.
You try to create the best systems possible to give people the opportunities to live the best lives. I'm not saying everything's perfect. I'm not saying this is the best system possible. I don't know. Everything's a hypothesis.
Yeah.
But for you to say that is disgusting.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm a real hypocrite for that. But the people who you should be going after are the people in the top something percent that hoard all the world's wealth. Go after those people. Those people need to be taxed, and that money
Tax to the max.
Yeah.
What does that even look like to you? You probably don't even know what that looks like. What does that look like? How do you tax them to the max?
I'm not sure. I have somebody else. Who does my taxes.
Interesting. This person's voting.
Yes, I am. And I already know who I'm voting for.
And you literally can't describe a tax.
Yeah, this person is voting. She said a few things there that I was writing down during the video. First off, I wish we could do this. Yeah. I think there's other people throughout history who wished they could do these things too. Not to always jump to those examples, but they didn't turn out very well. She says, if this is the best system possible, and he kind of cuts her off, but if this is the best system possible, then why do we have, she was going to say, why do we have these people in the top, whatever, that have all this wealth and the people at the bottom, that are suffering. That doesn't mean that still doesn't mean that it's not the best system possible. That means that you don't like it. That means that you could be envious or that you could feel like that's unfair, but it doesn't mean that it's not the best system possible. It probably is the best system possible. What we have right now is not the best system possible because a lot of it's crony capitalism / fascism, because we have the government running private. Then you can still own things privately, but the government tells you what to do. And so it's not the best it could possibly be. A lot of times that's why a bunch of people have so much wealth on the top. They get it through government benefits of some sort, government granted monopolies of some sort. She talks about wealth hoarding. We have all these people that are just hoarding all this wealth. Means that you have no understanding of the way that money or wealth works. Do they have it in a safe at their house? Do they have it under their mattress? Or do they have it in the bank, where the banks then make that available for other people to get things that they don't have the money for? So they can go to the banks and use our beautiful fractional reserve banking system and lend that money out to a bunch of people. Is that money available for investments, so you can invest in other companies and other businesses that are going to hire workers, and they can save and work their way up? Like, just absolutely. And then she said they should be taxed to the max. I had no idea what that looks like at all, how it would even work. How would you tax these people's wealth? There is no way to actually do it. She just knows that she wants it done because she doesn't like seeing this wealth inequality. And a lot of times, these are the kind of people that you have pushing these ideas, and they have no idea how they would actually work, how it would actually be implemented, but they place these ideas in people's heads who don't have time to think through all of this stuff, who go through their daily lives, struggling through with their busy schedules, working their job, barely getting ahead, and then someone comes along and tells them that this system's unfair and that they're getting screwed, and they default to thinking that that's true, and that someone should do something about this. And people like her are kind of the problem. So that's dumb bleep number. Which number was that? Number 5. Let's get to number 6. One of the reasons Democrats are more, this is from Sean on X. One of the reasons Democrats are more anxious about the election is because if Trump wins, we lose rights, a strong economy, health care, democracy. And if Harris wins, Trump supporters lose literally nothing. They'll claim otherwise, but they objectively don't lose a thing. Yes, that is accurate. If Trump wins, you'll lose your economy. His economy sucked under Trump, from what I remember. Your health care, because health care has gotten so much better over the last 3.5 years, much more affordable. They've done a lot to fix the health care system. Democracy is working out really great. That's why Joe Biden's on the ballot this year. And Trump supporters, they don't care about whether or not they want to have, a high-powered rifle with a 30-round magazine, or if they want to say the things that they want to say online. If they want to not get locked down in their houses and then talk about maybe something leaking from Wuhan or whatever it is, they won't lose any free speech rights, right? That's not something that's going to happen. There's any number of things we can go down on a list that a Harris administration would take away from people. And the answer is you don't care about those things. You don't think that they're important. And so you're saying that people would lose nothing and that you're the only person that would lose something, even though you haven't. Like I said, did healthcare get better? What is it? What do these things even mean? I don't even know what these things mean. Okay. Got to go a little quicker here because I do have a hard stop at 11 a.m. Number 7, speaking of free speech, I put that one in before for a reason. There's this article in The Atlantic. It's actually an article describing a podcast episode or something, like a 11-minute episode. It's called "I'm Running Out of Ways to Explain How Bad This Is. What's happening in America today is something darker than a misinformation crisis." And it's talking about free speech. It talks a lot about the hurricane, FEMA response, stuff like that. Carlos Maza, whose handle is Gay Wonk, says free speech was and is an unmitigated disaster. I know it sounds inflammatory, but every piece of evidence points to the fact that we need really aggressive government regulation of speech platforms. The free market doesn't work, and it never will. We need aggressive government regulation of speech platforms. The question is, as everyone asked, who decides what's disinformation and what's misinformation? And then the thing that this guy would never answer, no way, is, okay, so Trump wins the election. So now you think that the government needs to aggressively regulate speech, right? You think that that should be their job. With Donald Trump as the president, picking all the people who were in the cabinets, who's running all of the agencies, you think the government should aggressively regulate speech. If you don't want your enemies to have the power, then you can't allow that power to exist. This goes for Democrats and Republicans, by the way. There are Democrats who abuse things that Trump created. Look at CISA, which was created in 2019, kind of the center point of a lot of the speech regulation that has happened, the censorship that has happened over the last few years. Look at that. That happened under Trump. You know, the FISA courts, FISA being used against Trump when he was running the first time around. If you don't want your enemies to have that power, then you cannot create that power. You cannot guarantee me or yourself or your friends that the person you agree with is always going to be in office, which is why you can't create that power in the first place. There you go. That's stumbling number 7. Number 8. We're coming up on the anniversary of this. It's tomorrow, but so Byron York says the anniversary of the New York Post breaking the Hunter Biden laptop story. This was on October 14th. Suppressed by the government, tech, and big media organizations in critical days before the 2020 election. So the anniversary of that story coming out was on October 14th, I believe. Destiny says it was suppressed for 1 day. And so this is a non-story. This doesn't matter. Destiny is intentionally dense. He should be called density. Instead, he intentionally, there's got to be a term, one of those literary terms for the way that he intentionally acts like he doesn't understand something or acts like what you're saying is stupid when you know that he understands the implications of something. Maybe it was suppressed for a day. People got their accounts locked, whatever, because they were even trying to share the New York Post. They got suspended. We all know how that happened. But to act like this is a non-story that had nothing to do with the election is ridiculous. Okay, I'll tell you why. Because not just they censored the New York Post and anyone who tried to post that link on Twitter back in the day, or they deprioritized it on Facebook and Instagram and all that. We also had this. This is from Politico. Hunter Biden's story is Russian disinformation, dozens of former intel officials say. More than 50 former intelligence officials signed a letter casting doubt on the provenance of a New York Post story on the former vice president's son. From Business Insider, more than 50 former intel officials signed a public letter saying they believe the Hunter Biden story has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. The Hill says 50 former intelligence officials warn New York Post story sounds like Russian disinformation. So all those things seem pretty important, and that Politico article came out on October 19th, so the anniversary of which would be tomorrow. That is a pretty big deal. There were 2 surveys, I believe, conducted after the election asking people if they would have known that the Hunter Biden laptop was real and that everything on it was real, would it have changed their vote? And there was a pretty good portion of people who said that it would have changed their vote, so much so that doesn't mean they even had to vote for Trump. If they would have not voted for Biden and decided to not vote, it actually could have changed the outcome of the election. Now, I don't know how accurate these polls were. Don't know exactly what they looked into. So don't take that as something that's written in stone. But it absolutely did have an effect. Not only that, we found out later that the Biden campaign commissioned this letter, and then the CIA helped them by going around getting former intelligence officials to sign on to this. And we found out later also that the FBI knew about this laptop. They knew that it was real and that they had planted this in the minds of the social media companies that this Russian disinformation story was going to be coming out before the election when they knew that it was real. Who got in trouble for that? Can you guys tell me who got in trouble for this? And so for Destiny to act like this is just nothing, this doesn't matter, this is not a big story at all, crazy annoying. And it's really dumb, which is why it's in Dumb Bleep of the Week. We've made it to the last one, which has got a few things in it. It's called Kamala Outreach. Kamala Outreach. Now, what we started with was that Kamala skit. You guys remember that? The superstar SNL the Catholic charity, the Al Smith dinner, I believe is what that is called, which apparently everyone does all the time, and she decided not to do. That's one portion of Dumb Bleep number 9. So take what you remember from us listening to that video earlier and apply that to Dumb Bleep number 9, because that is Kamala outreach when she's doing fine with the ladies, because ladies really, really want to kill their kids, basically have no consequences for actions in one very specific realm. Okay, well, let's do some more outreach. She's underperforming with black men. So that's a thing. And some people are surprised about this. They're surprised because Kamala is a half black woman. And so naturally, black men should be gravitating towards her because skin color is all that matters, I guess. The one thing she did this week was say black men deserve a president who cares about making their lives better. Okay, so that's one thing. My response to this was, what if there were people who didn't want to be pandered to? They didn't want to be coddled. They didn't want a handout. Now, I'm not saying that specifically applies all the time, but what if promising to coddle people is a bad strategy to win an election? I don't know. Maybe that's not what the problem is, but she's got some policy proposals. Kamala Harris will create an opportunity agenda for black men. Number one, she's going to provide 1 million loans that are fully forgivable up to $20,000 for black entrepreneurs and others to start a business. She's going to support education, training, and mentorship programs that lead to good-paying jobs for black men, including pathways to become teachers, because black men have been trying to become teachers this whole time, and they just can't get through that very difficult, strenuous system of becoming a teacher. Protect cryptocurrency investments so black men who make them know their money is safe. What are we talking about here? Is this like, is this a big, like, I want a president who's going to protect my cryptocurrency investment, and us black men just haven't been able to get in the cryptocurrency because we don't feel safe enough. What's going on? Launch a national health initiative focused on the illnesses that disproportionately impact black men. Legalize recreational marijuana and create opportunities for black Americans to succeed in this new industry. Okay, I see what we're doing here. Now, what's really funny is she's essentially taking programs that she wants to do and is just recoding them to say that they're going to help black men. Just so you know, like things that she's already going to do, but then she's saying, hey, these are going to help black men. These aren't like specific programs. I'll tell you one, because the first one, provide 1 million loans that are fully forgivable up to $20,000 for black entrepreneurs and others to start a business, is illegal. You can't do that. They tried to forgive the debt of black farmers, and that got shot down in court pretty quickly. You can't do that specifically based on race, thanks to the Civil Rights Act. It's just not something that you can do. The community note under this says the Harris campaign has clarified that the programs listed under the Black Men agenda will be open to all Americans on a race-neutral basis. It's pretty funny. This is from the Wall Street Journal, I think. VP Kamala Harris's opportunity agenda for black men aims to shore up support from a pillar of the Democratic base with a key section promising 1 million loans that are fully forgivable to black entrepreneurs and others to start a business. And also includes all the things that we just said. While Harris's rhetoric suggests she will provide such benefits specifically to black men and women, it turns out that the words "and others" are doing a ton of work. The campaign says the programs listed under the Black Men agenda will be open to all Americans on a race-neutral basis. So, it's literally just a meme, and it's like, here's a thing that I want to do, and this is going to be good for black men. It did sound like it was going to be specifically for black men, but that's illegal. It's actually open for everyone, and you're just trying to pander to people to get votes. Obama was out there doing a little bit of chastise pandering, which is a super good strategy, really good strategy. I think Stephen A. Smith is in that. This is a response from Stephen A. Smith, and I thought it was a good response, even though I find him to be a fairly annoying person most of the time. But Obama suggested that she's underperforming with black men because they are sexist. That's a way to win. Like, oh yeah, they just called me sexist. I guess now I'm going to go vote for her because I don't want them to call me sexist. I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, it's not good.
I want you to hear exactly what this man had to say.
I'm speaking to men directly now. Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. That's not acceptable.
Respectfully, President Obama, what you said is not acceptable. Is it possible that the only reason
Mr. Charles Chuck
some
Thompson is
black
in the room
folks may not be inclined to vote, or they may be a bit disenchanted, or dare I say may even be willing to go as far as voting for Trump? Is it possible
Hello, friends.
that it's policy as opposed to misogyny, inflation, the cost of living, the price of gas, the price of groceries? That don't matter? Immigration and our borders, and this belief that there's an elevated level of sensitivity towards them as opposed to black folks struggling, if not starving, in this country. Yes, that plays a role too. When the mayor of New York was talking about $53 million in prepaid credit cards for immigrants who came across our borders illegally and having prepaid credit cards for them. And I said, wait a minute, black folks been starving for years. We ain't get that. You don't think they notice?
Looks good. All right, so that was pretty good. Pretty good from Stephen A. Smith. Good response to that. Really, really bad move from Obama. I would have liked to hear something more like, we don't need people to take care of us. We don't care that you're promising to give us all this free stuff because we have our own agency and our own personal responsibility, and we're going to do it on our own, and we're sick of people calling us. Instead, his argument was, well, they're giving the Mexicans credit cards, prepaid credit cards, and not black people, and that's unfair. Like, that's okay. Not the perfect argument, but a good response nonetheless. And then we have the real men, the men for Kamala Harris. I think this happened over the weekend, and I'm going to play that real quick. Like I said, I do have a hard stop at 11, and so we're going to see if we are man enough to vote for Kamala Harris. And just so you guys know, I have not seen this ad, but we're going to go ahead and get voting going right after this ad. Okay, I have not seen it, but they have an issue with men. They can't do it because men, of course, are sexist, apparently. And I saw a post the other day. It was like, hey, men have been doing this for 248 years. Maybe it's time to give the girls a try. And my response was, really, girls? You only get one first impression. Okay? Ours was George Washington. All right? You want your first impression to be this? Really? That's your first impression? You want her to be the last female president? Then go ahead. Go ahead and do it. That's great. All right, let's see this ad, though. This is my first time seeing it.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man. And I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast. I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies?
Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Because I'm man enough to support women.
Man enough to know what kind of donuts I like.
Man enough to admit I'm lost, even when I refuse to ask for directions.
Man enough to not ban young women from reading Little Women.
Or one of those pants books that the sisters like.
I'm man enough to raw dog a flight. It sucked. Not worth it.
I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse.
I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually.
Good Will Hunting.
West Side Story.
That and predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
That's not how my mama raised me.
I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
That was the gayest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. That was really bad. I mean, the funny part about this is when they do these ads, they try to present it to you as like they went out and they found the real guy that happened to be sitting on his pickup truck, and he looked like he was sitting on something else, by the way. And they just had him talk about this, but they're all actors. Yeah, half of them are actually gay actors. And none of them are the real people that they were just playing, just so you know. I don't care that they're gay, but I'm just saying that's the gayest ad I've ever seen. And good God. She doesn't get it. They don't get it. Let's get the votes in. We got to go. We got to get out of here. I don't know what you guys are still hanging around here for. Go and get your votes in. Number 1 was Stealth Edit. Number 2, Trump Confused. Number 3, Migrant Workers. Number 4, Trump is the only option if you want to whatever. Number 5 is The Privileged Socialist Girl. Number 6, Trump supporters lose nothing. Number 7, free speech. Number 8, Destiny. Number 9, Kamala outreach. All those videos included, and we don't have to wait too much time here. And number 9, Kamala outreach is the winner. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us this week for Dumb Bleep of the Week. Tell your friends, tell your family members, share this episode with them. Tell them that you'd be listening to this podcast. Leave a rating and review. Interact with us online. It tells the algorithms that people like to interact with us online. Go find us on X and retweet something or like something or leave a comment. Say, hey, Nate, I just heard you say go do this, and I'm doing this right now. You should do that, okay? You should do it. Plus, I'll follow you. If you go do that, I'll follow you. You'll get that coveted follow. I got to go. Thank you guys for hanging out. See you next week for Good Morning Liberty. Have a good weekend and a good morning, Liberty.